Okay, so I've said this before. I think those of you that come here a lot and have like looked to the website and stuff sort of know that this is a very long, ongoing RPG game. It's episodic. The reason it's episodic is so that we can release things, soon rather than in 20 years. Because if we was just having a full game, you guys could be waiting until 2030 or more. So let's face it. So because of that reason, we're breaking the Raindrop Chronicles into episodes, but each of those episodes are going to be pretty chunky, they're not going to be like super short and quick. They're sort of mini RPGs in themselves. I want episode 1 to have a decent amount of content before I'm happy to release it, and same for the other episodes too. Hi Mario, how you doing? It's good to see you. And hi Mesla, thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub, by the way. Come have some hype in chat, everybody. That's very kind of you to give me your Prime for this month. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. I had a really drab room at uni, so it brightened up the place. Yeah, I say fill your room with orange. Paint your walls orange. We'll probably be lurking again, but thought I'd at least say hi. Oh, no worries. Thank you so much for the lurk. I love you lurkers. Gotta love you lurkers. By the way, I noticed that Daniel's full name is shown as ? I thought of it as Daniel Raven, just the name of his noble house. Sorry if I didn't express that clearly. Oh, no worries, try. Most of the characters on the Lore Bible, if you've looked through the other profiles, have question marks as their full names as well, unless it was stated in the form that was submitted, which a lot of the characters only gave their first name. A few of you did give the full name, but some of you only gave first name, so that's why a lot of you have question marks there, but it's no worries. I see those profiles as things we're gonna fill out and really flesh out over time, especially once the character's introduced to the game. That'll be the moment when you start seeing the profiles really get fleshed out. But thank you for letting me know. I can always add that. Now I know that that's the name, and it makes sense, of course, seeing as that's their house name. Very interested in the progress of your RPG, thank you, and of course your accent too. Oh, thank you, Mesley. Well, guys, we're going to be talking about the game design and development process today, which I haven't really done before, in all honesty. I mean, we're on stream, nearly on stream 200. I've never really properly talked about how I am planning and organising this, because I sort of had this attitude at the start, play it by ear, just go with the flow. And the reason why I was like that was because I wanted variety in my streams, and I didn't want to get burnt out or, bored from just focusing on one thing for too long. But as time's gone on, I've realised, and this is just me, everybody's different. Some of you guys making games might prefer to do bits rather than do it in stages. You might prefer to go between all of them like I did before. But I found I started getting very, it was all very disorganised, and I didn't know where I was at, and I didn't know what to do next, because there was everything was coming at me. So I've thought of seeing it in stages now, of how to approach the design and the development of each episode. So obviously, we're working on episode 1 at the moment, and although I kind of see each episode might be a couple of years in terms of development, that's an estimate. It could vary. Some episodes might be out in 1.5 years, others might be out in 2 or 3. It all depends. I don't like to be too rigid or specific in something like that, because you never know, you don't know how things go. But that's just on average, an approximate sort of timeline I see it being. But I've always episode 1 will take long to develop, because to get the framework in place takes a lot of time to figure out the sort of aesthetics and systems in the game is a pretty time consuming part, and episode 1, you know, most of the development of that will be like figuring out how it should all be and the game itself, whereas the future episodes after that will all follow the same style, the same aesthetic, like the UI menus, whatever systems and features we have will all be the same and consistent. I don't want the episodes to be completely different from each other. I want them to be as consistent as possible so they all look part of the same game. I wouldn't like episode 1 to be super like basic and mediocre in terms of that, and then the future episodes be all fancy. I'm going to try and stay consistent, so of course getting that framework will take time. I mean, in regards to the menus, they're very basic at the moment, but I'd love to have spend some time on those menus and make them a little bit nicer, and the UI in general. And same with features. We've been talking about potentially having a day-night cycle, the NPCs having daily routines, and there being some form of an ecosystem in the forest with wildlife and things like that. And I'm not sure at this stage how complex that would be, but it's fun to think about that kind of thing just to make the world feel more real. So there's gonna be a whole bunch to do, and so far, like since the very beginning of this, I've been like going from all of these different stages. I've been working on all of them. I've even done balancing this early on, believe it or not, and I've totally realised that I prefer not to do balancing at the start or even in the middle, because it's just complex, and that should be the last job for me. I feel like it's best as the last job anyway, and the battles as well. But in terms of the stages, I'm not going to do it all in one big chunk. Like it's got version 1.0 here, so I kind of am thinking of it in sections, little segments. So basically, version 1.0, it's the first pebble build, and it will include basically that's what the first pebble build is. It will include main quest 1 and 2. And I'm currently here. I've been doing some going through these off stream, because we spent the last few weeks doing story stuff, but behind the scenes I've been like working on, because I love to get a first pebble build out in the winter. Obviously because I'm moving house, it might delay it a little bit, because I'll be moving house around the winter time, but I'll let you know. I'll get the sort of release date in mind as we come closer to tidying this up. But we spent a lot of time really improving the maps of Everbloom Forest, so that part's I'm kind of happy with that for the first playable build stage anyway, although there are a few little parts on the sides of the maps that probably need filling in, because we don't have black rectangles, because there's a lot of maps we haven't designed yet that we probably will do when you move in. It'll be at some point in the winter, whether it's before Christmas or after Christmas I don't know yet, because we don't have a date yet, so but I'll let you all know. And the dialogue as well is done for main quest 1 and 2. So if we go, I actually put my dialogue on our lore bible, so if we go in episode 1 main quest 1 and 2, they're here. Dialogue trees, so we got the dialogue tree in for main quest 1. That's all main quest 1's dialogue tree, and we haven't got it in for main quest 2 yet, because we kind of stopped, but it will get put in. So the dialogue's done for Main Quest 2, almost. It's about 95% there, and that will get put in as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the dialogue for Main Quest 1 and 2. The mapping I'm pretty happy with. So I'm currently working on the scene stuff, and then I'll be moving on to these. So eventing is like, you know, all the inner behind the scenes stuff, like the variables, getting those systems in place, like the moral points, the romance system, everything that brings the events to life. You can't have a game without that, otherwise it's not a game. And same for the system. So anything that can't be evented, I would like look for a plugin for, or something like that, and that's what that would be, getting the systems and features and the plugins in place. And battles, that's pretty straightforward, right? You know, battle skills, enemies, all that sort of thing. And then the balancing. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it right now. The 7 stages, not including the story. And I haven't put story there because story is something that's overarching. It's what we do first. And I'd love to at least get a story outline and plot points in place before even beginning the actual in-engine work and development. And it's and as for these 7 stages, it'll go back to stage 1 once we release a playable build and we start to add more content. Weird, my badge turned itself off back now though. Yeah, you've got Cloud back. You gotta love that Final Fantasy bit badge. Gotta show it off. Event flags. So, yeah, I've marked that we're currently here for the first playable build, but eventually, of course, we'll be down here. Hopefully, we'll be at the balancing stage when we get close to releasing it. And then I'm going to be looking at adding some more content. So that'll be like, just copy this as an example. Might delete it though. So I don't know what I'd call it. How do fellow game devs name their build versions? I'm curious whether I'd have it as that or version 2. I don't know. Just have it like that for now. So that would be the second playable build, and that obviously will include Main Quest 1 and 2 and maybe Main Quest 3, and who knows, maybe a side quest or as well, or 2. And then obviously we go through it all again and slowly implement it, because if we did it all in one chunk, we'd be here for freaking ever doing each of these stages, and it could feel a bit overwhelming. So I'm sort of like breaking it up into chunks for each playable build until it's ready to be released. So, for example, then we've got the third playable build, and that'll have maybe Main Quest 4. Example that, and it'll just with every playable build, it'll get slowly more and more polished and more full, like more of a game, until it's ready to be officially released. I'm not sure how many playable builds we'll have altogether. Could have 5, could have 10. It's hard to say at this point, until it's at a point where we're like, yeah, this is enough content for episode 1. And that's kind of how I'm imagining it being done. That's kind of how I'm going to approach it right now. We'll see how this sort of system goes and this plan. I think it's a bit better to be organised rather than do it how I did before, which was just do whatever. That was my rule before, do whatever. And it was fun, don't get me wrong, the do whatever approach works well. It keeps you excited and because you don't know what you're going to be doing from day to day. One day you might do a story, one day you might do a battle, one day you might do a scene, one day you might do a map, and it can be fun, but I also found I was like, holy crap, where am I? Because it was all chaos. My project file ended up being chaos. I was like, there's a battle here, there's an unfinished map here, there's this, and it was all unfinished, like all bits disconnected, and I think approaching it in a more organised way and doing in order, then it just feels like it might be tidier and work better. That's great. Quite an undertaking, I know, right? It's fun though. And the potential personality clash between Ashari and Daniel seems like it could be really interesting. Oh, yeah, guys, if you want to think about how their relationship would be with each other, even if like you chat about it and chat together, feel free to, because that sort of thing is fun. And I always make notes. I'm going to show you guys, actually. Let me get my notepad file up, because I want to like make sure you know what I've been doing. So if I just do this, here we go. So you can't really see this, the text is a bit small, but this is all the nights of our Story Suggest-a-thon streams. You might see some of your names. You might see some of your names. Zexion, etc. Van, Unstable. You're all here, folks. So anything that was like really was mentioned in chat that was cool, pretty cool, I just copy and paste and pop it in here, and I just like put subtitles such as Lakefall, Everbloom Forest, Humans of Lightfall, Reptiles, Human and Reptile War, main quests, general story arc ideas, Forbidden Romance, Pilgrimage, Baby Reptile, NPCs, Tree in the Centre of Lightfall, Father Maple, Stumpy, Sentient Fruits, the Fruits with Side Effects, Fiona, Aelandra, Kung's character, Poppy, Game Mechanics, Optional Secret Characters, Other Ideas. So as you can see, I've making sure I've got everything recorded, and that's so that, you know, I don't forget anything, or I don't miss anything vital. So every VOD I usually spend about 20 minutes, half an hour, after I've had my dinner, just going through the VOD and copying and pasting any key like bits that you guys mention and get it in that file. Eventually it might get a bit big and I might need to split it up a bit, but it works for now. That's a lot of stuff, I know, right? It is a lot of stuff. That's a ton, I regret missing it. Well, don't worry, there's a lot of stuff there, and of course you couldn't have read all that in the tiny time I had it up for you guys to see. But I'm planning, you know those little sheets I was doing, which are here? Here they are. I started doing them for during the Story Suggest-a-thon. I've got a few that have gone okay. I kind of like how this one's organised. I'm kind of hoping to get all those notes laid out in a similar format to this, and then sharing them, so that we've got those ideas there to look at, because it needs to all get put down in an organised way, because that will be how that's how we'll be able to make the story and put it all together and figure out what works, what could be put on polls and all those things. Because all this story stuff, I mean, we got it at stage 0. It's not something that's going to be either quick. With every time we do it, for every episode, we're talking months will just be spent outlining story and doing plot points and thinking of plot ideas and character development ideas and arcs and all that, like months and months of streams of that sort of thing. You know, that's kind of what we do with the Story Suggest-a-thon. Like, we'll be here probably till, you know, God knows when, till the end of the year doing all this. Till we're at a point where we're comfortable, where we can say, okay, this is plenty of content for episode 1, and these quests and stories and characters are frigging awesome, so let's get them added to the engine now. Once we're at that point where it's like, yes, I like this, then we can start the next stages and start implementing them. And we've already been doing that with what we've got so far, which is main quest 1 and 2, but I want to see the bigger picture of episode 1. I want to imagine what the rest of the main quests are going to be like. Main quest 3, 4 and 5. I don't think we'll have more than 5 main quests in the episode 1. I'm not sure at this point, but our main quests are quite chunky. And we'll have probably half a dozen side quests or so as well as those. So I'm kind of thinking, yeah, we need to outline main quest 3, 4 and 5, as well as think of the side quests. We've already got the Stumpy one, but we're going to need more. And the other things we need to do are really flesh out the NPCs, the group that are living in Lakefall, the humans, as well as any wandering around the forest, and the reptiles in the cave as well, and those living in their little cave home that they've made together. Because we'll probably switch between character development and story and plot ideas, because sometimes you need to make characters to kind of get those ideas for stories. Sometimes you need to do the story first to give you ideas for characters, but sometimes you've got to do characters to get ideas for stories. You know, it depends. It's whenever that light bulb moment comes in your head, you know. And we've had a couple of those, like, already during our chats. Like, people have been like, oh, what about this and what about that, and we've come up with some cool ideas. And both control cautious but totally different attitudes to the outside world and others. And does this include all our conversation in messages? Nothing in Discord is in that notepad file. It's only stuff from chat in the VODs during stream, because the good thing about anything that's been put on Discord, whether it's messages or in here, that's there forever. I mean, it's always good to kind of organise everything, but the thing with VODs, they go, we lose the chat, and although I've got the VODs on YouTube, it's impossible to copy and paste. I think the VODs stay on Twitch for a week or 2, maybe. So I have only a short amount of time to get those copied and pasted, but the good thing about Discord is it's there forever. As far as I'm aware, unless Discord decides one day they're going to delete everything. And sorry, Rose, if you answered my question before. I had gone out the room for a moment. Oh, yeah, I didn't, because you know what I'm like. I'm slow at responding to chat because I ramble. That's one thing I really like, is that all the playable characters have personalities which are distinct and not really replicated at all. With the number of them and with them all being viewers submitted, that's kind of incredible. Yeah, and like the stuff that's on the forums, folks, I've put enough on these forms to give you guys some freedom with your characters and like sort of flesh them out. But we can go so much further with the development for the characters as a community together. What's in the forms is just the base, the starting point. I think I've thought about adding more questions to the forms, but then part of me is like, no, because it's fun for us as together, me and you guys, anyone in stream, to potentially stretch those characters further ourselves and have like creative flexibility with where we can take them and ourselves. It's going to be fun because I've got some notes here. I spent the weekend actually making some notes on characters' ideas, how to develop them, so I was thinking about maybe making a list of those ideas today. But before we started that, I wanted to share my plan of the process out with you guys, because we're going to be spending a large amount of time on this stage 0 for months doing episode 1 story stuff. I'm not going to be satisfied with ending that or putting a finish to it until we got something frigging awesome and something that's so exciting that we can't wait to do these parts. Something that's really if it's not good enough, and we're going to make it better until it is. That's how I'm going to see it. And we're not gonna, once we've planned the story, main quests 1 to 5 and all the side quests and any story elements that we're gonna have in episode 1, I'm not gonna like do all that dialogue in one go and all those scenes in one go and all that event in one go. Like I said, I'm gonna break it up into chunks. So I'll probably think playable build 2, the one that comes after this, I'll be like, that can have main quest 3 in and 1 side quest. Playable build 3 will have a main quest 4 in and another side quest, or another 2. And so I'm gonna like do it in chunks like that and do it in that order until it's done. Because I don't think it'd be very fun, for example, to have to do all the battles of episode 1 in one bulk. So that's why I prefer doing it, thinking of it as chunks. And same for the dialogue. I mean, I have a blast doing dialogue, but it could be a bit overwhelming doing all the dialogue, every single dialogue for episode 1, all in one go. Hi Rod, how you doing? How you doing? It's good to see you. Hope you're having a good Monday. You know what's weird? The JRPG trope of boss turned ally who can fight the whole party at once, but when they join the party afterwards, they are way weaker. Oh, let me read that again so I can properly take that in. The trope of boss turned ally who can fight the whole party at once. Boss turned ally. Do you mean a bad guy that goes good? I'm trying to think. I want to make sure I understand it because it sounds pretty interesting. And when they join the party afterwards, they are way weaker. Yeah, give me an example in a game, because I think I know what you mean. Bad guy boss. Like, so they're super powerful when you fight them, and then when they join the party, they're really weak. Is that what you mean? Like someone like Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX, who friggin' kicked butt when you fought her as a boss. But then when she joined the party as an ally, she was alright, but definitely not as strong as, well, not to me. Well, she wasn't as strong as when we fight her. And this game is going to be awesome. Oh, thank you, Rady. And yeah, massive decrease in strength. Yeah. How dare they fool us like that? How dare they? Get us all excited. Alright, so okay, so I think that's enough for rambling on about that. But yeah, so as I said, that's enough, but I'm still rambling about it. As I said, we'll be doing this stage for a while, for the rest 2020 probably, but there might be the odd stream where we do some of this for the first playable build. For example, that I do want to we were working on Carol the Barrel scene, one of the very early ones together a couple of weeks ago, and you guys had some really cool dialogue ideas for that, and I really want to put up a poll and have a chat about that scene at some point, so we might have a stream where we do that as we'll have these in between now and again, but this is the focus for now. Redemption demotion is what TV Tropes calls it, apparently. Yuffie is the same way. Yeah, and who else is the Sephiroth? Because I remember, well, you fight as him in the flashback of Clouds, and he's like really strong. But then when you fight him as a boss, he's obviously even stronger, right? Remember, I'm sure there's way more characters that join. We'll eventually get you Among Us. Oh yeah, I put that game on my wish list on Steam, but I've got no one to play it with. Just surviving, going soonish for breakfast, but wanted to make sure you were alright. Thank you, Rod. You can play that game single player, can't you? Imagine playing that game single player. That would be crazy. Yeah, that guy, the bad guy from Chrono Trigger. Yeah. That's like him getting more powerful every time. Yeah, so it works a bit better then. It makes a bit more sense then. Excellent example. All right. So I'm thinking I was going to get Draw.io up, but part of me wants to do this writing in Google Docs. It might be easier actually for what I'm going to write down now. Let's get a new fresh doc up though. I like doing the Draw.io, you know, as we get a lot of stuff to show. But for making notes, it's probably just easier to do Google Docs. Okay, so what are we going to call this? Characters. NPCs and PCs. Because that's what we was doing last stream. We started talking about some of the NPCs that have already been established in the game for episode 1, and some of the PCs as well. We were chatting about Kung's character, Aelandra, and how she would work as a character, and we have other characters to chat about too. Let me just get our document up of the world with all our characters and where they're from. I might put this on the Discord at some point as well, so you folks can see it. Here it is. Zoom out, super big. Oh, this isn't the one with where their heads are placed though. This is just the plain map. I'll have to get the one with the avatars on in a sec, because I've got 2 versions. Well, I've got a few versions saved. Oh, Adea from 8, that's another good one. Oh my goodness, yeah, she was so strong when you fought her, and she was weak when she joined. But I suppose you could say it was because she lost her sorcerer's powers, didn't she? So maybe that could be the excuse. Did my annual Undertale playthrough. Can't believe it's been 5 years. 5 years since Undertale was released. I can't remember now. Can't remember when that game came out, because I know I only played it a couple of years ago for the first time. Or about 3 years ago now. It's a great game. Also, you know, I wanted to just give you guys an idea. Let me do this first before we talk about characters. Just a really rough idea of how I picture the episodes. Because on our game design document, I said that each episode may approximately be a 2-year development cycle, right? So, Everbloom Forest is episode 1. Let's use different colours for this. Everbloom Forest is episode 1. And looking at the rest of the world map, it's like, holy crap, there's so many zones. How many episodes is this game gonna have? It can be like that. But what I was thinking was that the other episodes will probably have have 2 or 3 zones, or some even more than that. So for example, episode 2 might be both of these zones. Because we know we move into the farmlands, that Carol the Barrel's journey of finding her companions is going to lead to the farmlands. And the capital's in the Highlands, by the way, folks, the big capital of the whole world, where the king lives and the prime minister, and Trier, your character, lives in the capital as well, by the way. He's a noble. All the rich people live in the Highlands, the episode, and this is just a rough idea, by the way, folks. It's not like 100% set in stone or anything, but I think it's fun and very helpful to at least imagine how it could work. So episode 3, for example, might be those 3 zones, because I'm thinking of zones that have a very similar feel to them, like aesthetic, and mountains, cold, windy, snowy. Oh, by the way, I should probably include the unnamed snow zone in that. Also, I should probably zoom out because it's not been very nice to me. Because if it's a 2-year development cycle, folks, we can't just have 1 zone per episode, because I'll be here till I'm a grandma. And I know I did say I want to be making games when I'm a grandma. I've been very honest about that. I'd be happily making games still when I'm a grandma, like 70, whatever. But that'd be pretty cool to be that kind of old person. But we gotta, it's nice to just not think that it's going to take 50 years. So episode 4 might be, because I think we kind of discussed when we was having the world map stream. Don't worry, I'm going to catch up with chat in a sec, guys. When we had our mapping stream the week before last, we said that it's pretty obvious we're gonna all this stuff at the top's end game, and this gritty wastelandy place, and the desert, and that is more like mid-end game, because it just feels more gritty, and the progression, like battles would be tougher over there and on that side of the world, and it just fits. It works. Like the east is very nice. It's very pretty, very scenic, very controlled. We have a government, we have a king in this land. That's the centre, that's the hub, the Highlands, and these places are obviously very valuable, probably have a lot of good trades and exports and that for the capital. But it's very different in the east. Like it's a harsher way of life there. And then at the top you've got these very mysterious places. Any plans for the night and the week aside from dinner? Not really, Rod. I mean, I'm just taking my time, because we're going to be moving in the winter, and that's going to be obviously stressful, because moving is. I'm going to be taking my sweet time, relaxing, being a hermit until then. I'm waiting for Cyberpunk to come out, though. That's what I'm waiting for. Highlands makes the most sense for sure. I mean, I know a grandma who's 40, so yeah. I hope you have a good evening and stay safe until next time. Thank you, Rod. And yeah, I'm not going to be an actual grandma because, you know, I don't have kids or anything, but, you know, a 70-year-old woman is what I'm imagining. I'd love to be a 70-year-old woman still making games. And hi, Arthur, do you have the BGM or you're gonna make it yet? Background music? I have found a composer who has a ton of variety of tracks. It's gorgeous music. And I'm going to contact him. I'm going to send him an email, actually, let him know that I'm using his music. I even have thought that in the future I would commission him for some original tracks. If he did commissions, of course, he might not. But that would be pretty cool. And yeah, there's hundreds, well, a large amount of tracks, should I say. And I think it's always better to stick to the same composer for consistency, and because you get those motifs and similar themes in the tracks, you know. And how you doing, Arthur, though? I hope you're having a good day. Right, where were we? So I'm just doing a rough idea. I'm giving you guys a rough idea before we carry on with the story and character stuff of how I picture each of the episodes to be. And this is if we're going for, like, you know, a 2-year development cycle per episode, decade of development, which is what I've always says it would be. So that's if we're going to do that. Okay, this one. And yeah, like I said, this isn't rigidly like this. We might decide that, oh no, we got to get to the Badlands then, or, you know, we might decide that it's just appropriate to have certain zones in other episodes, but this is just a rough guide. And I see, like, I'm thinking of aesthetics, like if you look at all these, like the jungle, savanna, desert, it's all very similar in aesthetics, so it would belong in the same episode, I'd say. It would make sense for those maps to, like, be together. As for the beach, like, I kind of imagined that we'd go on a boat trip or something that would lead us across the bay to the desert, but that's just one theory right now. Who knows how it would go in reality, but that's one possible one. And then we have this very rough, very edgy place where we got an urban zone. Now that's going to be very populated, by the way. Can be a real hub of life and all sorts there. So, you know, the hub of the east is the Highlands, that's where the capital is, and the hub of the west is this place. So and, you know, this is, I kind of imagined all this place would be very end game. What colour should we use for that? And we got space there. I don't know whether we'll actually go to space, but, you know, I just wanted to imagine all the planes and all the layers. And we have these underground zones as well, but the underground places obviously will decide where they'd appropriately fit. Like somewhere like the mines would fit maybe very well at the Badlands. The sewers could fit very well in the urban zone. The ancient ruins could fit very well in the jungle or the desert. The underground lava flows could fit very well in the subduction zone. So each zone will have its appropriate underground areas too for exploring. Let's just get that rougher idea. So if we were judging by this plan, that would be 6 episodes, and obviously, like I said, this isn't 100% rigid or set in stone, but I'd be happy with that if it's a 2-year development cycle per episode. It doesn't feel too bloated at 6 episodes. If we had like 10 episodes, it might be a bit daunting for people to even start the game. It might feel a bit heavy. But something like that could work. And I feel like with this like rough idea, we've got matching aesthetics going on for each episode. Like we're getting a different theme and feel for each of them. And so is Rose from the farmland area originally? She is Triarchist. She is from the farmland. If you look at the profiles, there's little clues. Certain characters have even like named where they're sort of zone they're from, and that made it much easier to place them where they would live in the world. So Rose was originally from the farmland, and as you can see, the highland is very close to the farm. So I kind of see them as the the farmland's the more humble place where the more working class are, and the farmers and anybody like that, and the highlands is where more of the nobles live, and the royalty and the government and things like that. So they're very just two divided ways of life there, but it's very English. I imagine they're kind of aesthetically very English, like Highlands very Scottish kind of vibes, old buildings or old architecture, very beautiful, very fitting for noble families. And your character it would very, very much fits that sort of aesthetic. So yeah, I'm feeling that very sort of English feels for that. And the Everbloom Forest is very tribal almost, civilization, so it's very different to here. It's a lot probably more civilized when we start getting to episode 2. And hi Unstable, how are you doing? I'm so sorry for taking ages to welcome you into the stream. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope your week went well. Lovely to see you again. My previous areas be revisited in later episodes? Yes. In answer to your question, Unstable, yes. I am very, very fond of the idea of having a fast travel system, which I, with the help of Vandalia, have already started to think about. And it's the way it would work would be, once you've visited a place, you can fast travel there. So you obviously won't be able to fast travel somewhere that you haven't visited yet, but once you've been there, you'll be able to go there again. So if you say, for example, you're in episode 6, we're in Endgame, and we're in the corrupted zone, but we want to go back to the Everbloom Forest or the farm, we just go to the fast travel point and go there. And I kind of saw it as an opportunity for us to revisit the NPCs living there, see how they're getting on, how life has changed for them since then. And because I very much pride Raindrop Chronicles of being a game where you can change the world with your actions as the hero. So we're going to want to see how things are changing and progressing with the way we've dealt with things. So it isn't a linear game in that regard. We're kind of having a more slightly open world, I guess, because you will be able to visit and go back. You won't be stopped. There won't be a sort of invisible wall that says no, you can't go back here, sort of thing. And the geography of this region is hella strange. The desert on the same latitude as a lush forest. Yeah, so we put this together the other stream, and I think there was actually because I was making sure with chat, I was saying, so does this work together, chat? Make sure you tell me if something doesn't fit. I was like being all like that. So I think it should be in the notes. There was a reason why it could work. And I guess it's the transition. Like, you've got a desert here, but it goes to savanna and then it goes to jungle. So it's like a slow transition. You're not going to just get desert and then jungle. It's not going to be like sudden. So try and see the savanna as a sort of transition between the two, I guess, because savanna kind of is that halfway point. It's not as like dry as the desert, and you're starting to get more trees. It's getting a little bit more. So the map itself is a bit messy, like the positioning of the rectangles, but realistically, when we start doing the mapping, it's going to be a lot more seamless, the sort of blending between zones, because I'm very, very keen on making it blend well and not look too sudden or anything like that. And latitude is only one consideration. Geography topology is perhaps a bigger consideration. So yeah, of course, guys, like, we want to, it's true what Tri said, people aren't necessarily geography geeks playing it, but at the same time, I'd love to make this realistic. So if there's anything we have to adjust, or any sort of transitions, like sort of hacks we could use to make it a bit more convincing, if there ever is a weird geography plot hole, we can always discuss that. And the sorcerer who cursed both vampires, the highlands and the farmlands next to each other. Yeah, see, I was thinking that, Try. I was thinking that Rose and your character Daniel, as they're the only two vampires in the game so far, I wanted them to be considerably close to each other in terms of where they're from, because their storylines merge. So it would be cool to deal with that plot line and character arc in that episode together, I'd say. Just saw your YouTube channel. Didn't think it'd take so much time to build a 2D RPG. Wow. Hi, Pway. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. But yes, oh my goodness. I guess it depends on the scope of your project, Pray. Some 2D RPGs could, if you want to make a short one, but this is an epic. This is an epic saga here that's episodic. So it's definitely, an ambitious project, and it's long term. That's what I went in for. I wanted to make something epic and cool, and good ones always take a long time to make indeed. Awesome project. But thank you for stopping by the stream. It's good to meet you. Super good to meet you. So you found me on the YouTube then? That's pretty cool, because I only treat YouTube as a method of archiving my streams, really. So if people actually find me on there, that's pretty nice. And development team size is also a fact. Exactly. Let's remember that, guys. I'm the only I'm a solo developer. So if there was a large team, if I cloned myself 20 times, then we'd get it done faster, obviously. But yeah, solo developers, it can be a lifetime project, something like this can, for one person. That's why I said you never know. I could be a grandma still working on this. Could be 80 and doing episode 6. I don't know. Like, if we was gonna have like 50, like 20 episodes, then I'd start thinking, yeah, I'll be a grandma. But I think having, say, if we see it as a 6 episode series, then that's not too daunting. I think 6 episodes is a nice number. So we'll think of it as this. We'll have this as the sort of plan. And the thing is, if anything isn't quite right, well, raindrops are magic in this world, and that can explain any weird climate stuff. Yep. So what is like, in terms of geography and the map, is there anything that sticks out to your chat as something that's jarring? I know that Tri mentioned jungle and desert, but really what this should be in reality is that you know. I should have probably placed them a little bit better, but you get the idea. And yes, we can think about that, because this map is just rough. And yes, I think I'm very happy where everything's placed, but you know, if there's any adjustments that need to be done, or we need to like add another transition zone to make something a bit more believable, or move something a bit further down, then so be it, we'll do that. I'm also going to save this as another version. I'm going to call it World of Raindrop Chronicles episode plan. So this is our episode plan. So yes, episode 1, funnily enough, only has one zone in it, Everbloom Forest, and we're kind of getting a little bit more, the scope's getting a little bit bigger with every episode from what we're doing here. Like episode 1 is just got Everbloom Forest, episode 2 will have 2 zones in it, and then we'll start having 4 zones per episode, or 3 zones per episode. And I think that's because I don't want to put too much on myself for episode 1 in terms of zone work. It would increase development time and be very time consuming if we were making another zone in episode 1. And Everbloom Forest, you know, it's not going to be tiny. I've already been thinking of extra maps we can add to it, so that will be fun. Totally order that. Now I get it, nothing immediately going good, because I want you guys to say, I mean, if there's anything that's like, holy crap, what is that next to that, then feel free to say, because we want a believable world here. I'm all for that, and of course it's fantasy. It's not like we're hard science fiction here and everything has to be 100% right, but you know, I still like to make it a believable world despite being fancy. Hi Big, how you doing? Glad to meet you. How you doing? It's good to see you. I'm most curious about why a massive urban centre developed way over there. Yeah, so we could talk about that. We can have a little chat about this one. So I'm trying to remember what we said in the last streams when we was doing this now. So I guess you could see this world as having 3 main population hubs. The capital, which is in the Highlands, the urban zone, and the floating cloud zone up here. They're the 3 main population hubs of the world. So the Highland Zone is where your government live, where the king lives. It's very ruled, like there's a very strict sort of order in place in this section of the world, with your kings and your government. Very, very English, more European, I suppose, in aesthetics. And then you've got this side of the world, which is just the opposite. It's probably a little bit more chaotic, and there's not really any rulers in place. There's probably a ton of factions and crimes and criminals, and it's just a grittier way of life. And I guess you've got the wasteland and the badlands here, and it's not quite like you've got the desert here, and it's kind of the place that anyone who lived in the desert who wants a more civilized way of life probably sort of went to. Somebody said that maybe the rejects of the floating cloud zone decided to make a life for themselves here, but it would be by, obviously there's an ocean on its border, and we got a beach zone as well. I guess you could see that as a sort of tourist spot as well in itself, but it's probably not quite as populated as sorry about the extreme breeze, folks, not as populated as the other 3. One thought was it where those who led the yes, that was it, unstable. So that was one idea, that rejects and that sort of like made a life for themselves here, because so I guess you gotta think, not everybody wants to live a life where they're being scrutinized or being ruled by politicians and monarchs. Some people are probably like, screw that. And people from the East could have gone there too. People who wanted a different sort of life. You know. And so there's a lot of things. I guess we've got to just put our heads together and think, because there's many possibilities, as we said. That's one. All I know is it's cool to have an urban zone. It's cool to have a gritty zone. You know, I'm all about different settings and different themes. And I kind of love the idea that this side of the world is just very different, a very different way of life to what's over here. Keeps things fun. Keeps things fun. Keeps things fresh. A city-state acting as a hub for both naval traders and pirates could be interesting, considering it's coastal, a maritime republic very loosely governed by the wealthiest merchants, but only in control in name only. Interesting. And if there's any, like, inspirations, like in any stories, any games, any movies, any shows, any I don't know, any books that have these sort of cities, feel free to shout them out, because it'd be cool to look at inspiration. I know TV tropes will be a good method of research. You can look under the trope Crapsack City or something and see like what sort of things had those in them. Okay. So yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to do an episode plan there with you guys. So back to the other stuff now. Okay, so we talked about my development process earlier in the stream, so I think that's fine. If anyone has any more questions about that, feel free to answer, but we're going to be carrying on with story stuff. Now. And as you know, I'm working on version 1.0, the first playable build off stream, which will include main quest 1 and 2. Future playable builds will probably have more main quests and more side quests in them until it's full enough to release as an official episode, official game. But you know, if I ever need a break from the story stuff, if we get writer's block or we need to just have a break from that, then I might have the odd stream where we do some version 1.0 stuff. We're currently on stage 3 at the moment for that. But we're on story stuff, so let's do that. That's the story stuff. Venice, Genoa, Pisa, all that kind of thing. Historically, like medieval. I like medieval history. Yes, that's good then, because the east side of the world is very more medieval. That's for sure. In its sort of feel. I've always viewed it as something like a pirate port. Awesome. I mean, we got a beach, but I imagine the beach is more luxury and more touristy and more nice. And there's not really pirates there. So I definitely sort of with you that the city to the far west is probably a bit more piratey. Especially as we say, there's a coast there. It would work. We don't have any pirates in the game yet. No one's filled in to be a pirate. Alright, so we've just been, honestly, for this story suggested on this thing, let's get the logo up. We've just been literally talking about whatever, whether it's story, characters, or anything, because I like just talking about whatever, because that's when we come up with the best ideas. So recently we've been chatting about the NPCs and PCs that are going to be in episode 1, so I'm going to say put that at the front just so we know it's episode 1 characters. We talked about the Kung Alandra character last stream. Did we talk about any of the other PCs? We talked about the diplomat and the herbalist, because we're going to have a choice of who you're going to recruit as a playable character in Main Quest 3. Out the diplomat and the herbalist, so that'll be fun. And so yes, we'll talk a bit about them too. So I was just thinking of like just having the rest of the stream chat about characters maybe, because I made some notes on good ways to develop characters, like some general notes. So I could get those up and we could chat about things like that. And then we can like have a good look at the characters that'll be in episode 1 and really think about them a little bit more, look at them a little bit closer, like we started to last stream with Aelandra. Oh my god, that logo, I know, right? Look, it's Woody the cardboard box. Which characters? Well, basically anyone that is going to appear in episode 1 as a character, whether they're an NPC or a PC. So where's our little document? Because with their faces on, I think it's a PSD file, so I might actually have to open the PSD. Give me a sec, because Photoshop's got to load up, but that's the file what we got of the world with the avatars on. So we'll have a look at that again to remind ourselves of the characters that are going to be in episode 1. Okay, here we go. So look, it's you, Try. You're there. You're in the Highlands. So we kind of, yeah, we put everybody, all the NPCs, submitted community character NPCs, in places where they are most likely to be living or hanging out. So this is kind of what we've got here. So these are folks that are most likely to be in episode 1. And, you know, it's about time we start thinking about them and really fleshing them out. Maybe thinking about, because I mean, it's whatever way we prefer to do this. Either we look at the characters first, develop them, and then come up with potential little story arcs and elements and plot points from that, or we do the story stuff first and then do the characters after. I think either is fine. Both could work equally as fine. But for some reason I felt more inspired to do characters this week because I've got a few ideas rolling. Whereas for the story stuff I'm a bit more blank at the moment. So maybe we need to start with characters to get the inspiration flowing and then do the story. Go more back to the story stuff after, because we already had some story ideas. I mean, we're not completely blank. We had some really interesting ones, but we're nowhere near done yet, that's for sure. Why do some of them have house icons? That's because we wanted to sort of distinguish between the ones that were just wandering and the ones that were living somewhere. So some characters are there twice. Like, for example, we've got a few of you guys in the fairy zone, the floating cloud zone. But the one thing about the floating cloud zone is that we're not going to get there till end game. Like, this is episode 6 stuff. It's right at the back of the world, you know. The hero isn't going to teleport over there, let's face it, that fast. We might get a bit of, like, you know, lore. We might hear about that part of the world, but we're not actually going to visit it until end game. So characters like these 3 who are very likely to have come from there, we don't want to, like, meet them that late. So what we did was we said, yeah, perhaps they live there, but, you know, they're currently wandering around another part of the world. Like, for example, Scaly Star's character, who is this purple-haired fairy, this girl here. Her profile actually says, if you guys do want to read the Lore Bible, if you want to have a look through the profiles, her actual profile says that she was from a faraway land with a fairy king, and she left because she was too friendly to outsiders. So in that case, she was from there, which is why we got a house icon, but she's no longer there now. And we decided she might be best at the beach because she enchants items for heroes, and there was just something about her that fit that sort of vibe, which we talked about in the previous streams. So she's there for now. That felt like a good spot for her. And same for you. I mean, you would obviously live in the Highlands because you're a noble, and it's the, just fits that aesthetic. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's where we first get a glimpse of you. We might meet you in the farmlands for all we know. You might come down and see our working class, lowly people are getting on, which is me, Rose. I'm one of those. But it's not going to be that, but like it's going to be far more civilized than the Everbloom Forest is, put it that way. Because in the Everbloom Forest, people live in hammocks. They sleep on hammocks, doesn't it? Whereas in the farmland, there will be proper buildings, and there's definitely more of a civilized way of life there. But the Highlands is something else. Like the buildings, the architecture is going to be like, whoa, this is beautiful. So without those icons are not originally from the zone, which sort of, but we kind of didn't finish it properly. Like, for example, some of these characters here, like Rex's character, for example, and probably should have a house icon on them because he's from there. Maybe he should have one as well. But we didn't. I got lazy. I got too lazy. I just put the house icons on the ones that we know for sure live there, but really they should be on them as well. But oh well, I made a go at it. And Daniel Raven is wandering the world, but it's not unexpected that he'll be still in the same general region. Yeah, who knows? I mean, all we know about Daniel is he's a vampire, and he somehow will tie into Rose's character arc because they connect with what's going on there. And so it's likely, if we want to have it make sense story-wise, which we do, of course, is that when we go to the farmland and find out more about Rosie's past, and we might actually visit her family in the farmland that she once had, and we might want to introduce him at that point, or maybe just after at the Highlands. It certainly would fit better that he's around here when we meet, and then at the other side of the world, and the story would be over by then. The Rose character arc would have progressed massively, so it would be a bit late to meet him then, maybe. But I don't know, who knows? Maybe it would fit better to meet him after. But at the moment, you kind of see him here, but we don't know how things could change, because the character arcs are very much blank at the moment. So for sure, some of these could be moulded and adjusted a touch if necessary. Wages on his own jewels and teaches swordsmanship for money, and if the Highlands has more young nobles, wannabe duelists and people willing to pay, it would make sense he'd stick around there. Okay. Yes. Okay. He definitely fits that sort of vibe. I mean, he's got that rapier. He's definitely there. All right, so we were looking at these characters, but we're gonna have more characters. We're gonna create NPCs ourselves, guys, on stream together to fill out the world of Everbloom Forest, the zone of Everbloom Forest, so we can populate it and have loads of cool people living here and NPCs we can get attached to. I mean, it might be a little bit earlier to actually create NPCs together now. Maybe we could start that this week, though. We can at least start thinking about NPCs that are living here. But we should think about how we're gonna develop the characters and that. Hi Julian, how you doing? It's good to see you. Rex looks so done all the time. I love it. Yes, and they might have other expressions That face there is just their default one, but you know, it fits him. It fits him. Okay, now let's hide that just a sec. Okay, so I've got some notes here. My gosh, I've got a ton of notes. Right. I'm going to say character development. So we just start in general. I'll copy this text so you can get. Should we get a bullet point? So we got the form thing here, as you know, when people, anyone who hits the 1,000 raindrops can make their own NPC of their own. But I'm gonna think beyond the form today, because the form itself, it's pretty good. We've got things like flaws, fears, secrets, all these things that sort of start developing a character. But I want to think beyond that, because there's more to an NPC than just what's here on this. More to a character than what's just here, that is. So, and I want us to all to have control of these NPCs to a certain degree and get really creative with them, which is why, you know, I haven't considered putting more questions on the form. And hi Zephyrus, how you doing? I think beyond the form. FSD, exactly. This is exactly what character development is. That bullet point right there. How you doing, Julian? No, it's good to see you. And when I'm 158 Zephyrus, that's when it's done. We have a Welsh character now, I see. Do we? Who's that? Oh, that one. Okay, so right, so which one should we think first? This isn't necessary. I'm not thinking of an order here, but I'm going to just write down whatever comes to mind. And now, chat, if there's anything that springs to your mind while we do this, feel free to say. So we'll zoom in a little bit more. In fact, we'll make the text a bit bigger, actually. I know I'm a slow one. Took me ages to realise what you meant. Do they have motives, goals, desires? Okay, so we kind of did that a bit on the form. There is a drop-down menu that asks what is your goal, and we have a reasonably decent list too. We can always add more if we want over time, but this is just a very the basic start of developing the NPC. What is your goal? But this is basically that. So we can, and it goes beyond just that. Like, for example, to stay alive is the goal. It's like, but why do you want to stay alive? You know, so thinking of something like that. And so what? Now, this is something I want to think about with every NPC, and I know that we'll have like characters that are more side characters and not necessarily a big part of the game. Like, for example, if the NPCs living in Lakefall, they're not characters that are gonna be a huge focus that we're gonna see throughout the whole game and in future episodes. They're probably gonna just be in the like full section of the game. But even those small NPCs, I still want to a certain degree, think about these things so they're not just boring cardboard cutouts. We don't necessarily have to go quite as deep into them as we would for some of the main characters and bigger characters, but to think about it is still cool. Like, for example, Fiona and Nigel Buckington, the innkeepers. Be nice to just like think about that for those as well. My stream froze, but I didn't realise for 10 seconds. I thought it was a really dramatic pause. I really like moral flexibility, or yes, morals is an interesting one. So I'm gonna, if you do think of a good question, try to do with morals, feel free to tell me and I might write it down, because I want to write everything. This is going to be a huge character development thing. This list is all the questions. I'm kind of starting as what's already on the form. So, do they have any secrets or burdens? Which is a question on the form. What is your deepest, darkest secret? If you have one. So that is on the form. I'm still working on a game. It's not an RPG. Oh yeah, an RPG. Doing an RPG is really throwing yourself into the deep end, that's for sure. I'm an ambitious one, me. But how's your game doing, Zephyrus? One of your characters literally cardboard and a whole bunch of them are wooden, lol. Yeah, that's funny. They're not going to be cardboard cutouts, but look, Woody is. But he's going to be beautiful. He's going to be a beautiful character. Make sure that all Carol's companions are going to be beautiful characters, very fleshed out. We'll make sure of it, folks. Who do they love? E.g. family, friends, lovers, pets, etc. That was something that wasn't on the form, that just sprung to my mind, because, come on, we want to make these NPCs as realistic as possible. These NPCs were alive before we started the game. They had lives. They have, loved people. Of course, and that could kind of go to do they have preferences? Like, I know, as in, like, for example, if we think of Rex's character, for example, with this question, the reptile here, this guy. His preferences are reptiles and beast men. He has no time for humans. So no, he doesn't treat everyone the same. He friggin' hates humans. That's as simple as that. So I think that's a cool question to have, just so we can start to form their sort of who they would. Because races and people in the game aren't all going to be getting on peacefully and happily. That's not how this world works. There's going to be people who clash. There's going to be allegiances and things like that. So that's something to consider for sure. He sure looks beautiful on screen right now. He is. He's cute. A cute cardboard box. Have to wait for my artist to finish the art for my game, one character at a time. I finally have 93% of what I need in updates. I can add the rest. Oh, that sounds fun. You're already 93%. That sounds like you're not nearly done then. What do they enjoy doing during spare time? And you know, we don't have to like answer every single question for every single NPC ever in the game that we're going to write here, but I kind of just, I want us to have these in the back of our minds when we start to like develop them, because it's just going to really help flesh them out and make them feel a bit more real and not flat. Because at the end of the day, they're going to do stuff, they're going to have hobbies, especially if we're going to have a daily routine sort of system in our game. Now, in Raindrop Chronicles, an ambition of mine, and I don't know how ambitious RPG Maker is in regards to how far I can go with this, but I would like to give it a good try. Sort of make the NPCs give the illusion that they're going about their day. They're not just standing there, basically, like a cardboard cutout. It's my favourite phrase now. They're not just standing there like, you know, a cardboard cutout. They're doing stuff. They might move from the tavern to the outside and walk around a bit, then go in one of the houses, then go down the bridge, and sort of have a purpose for why they're doing that, like because they enjoy doing it, or they have like sort of hobby, and kind of just show that NPC living their life, just to make the town feel like lived in and more real. So I'd like to give that a go, something like that. Give that sort of illusion of the NPCs doing that sort of thing. So I like to think about that for obviously all the Lakefall NPCs as well, and all the reptiles that we have living in the cave, and anybody at all that we have in the game, because we're going to sort of implement that. We're going to implement that sort of, give that impression that they're doing something. They're not just standing there. Hi True Blue, how you doing? Real talk. Hi, welcome to the stream. Character development gang. Yes, you are a homie. Not just standing there like a wooden barrel. Yes, I love it. Not just laying there like a club penguin fish. Not just sat there like a cookie jar. I know. See, this is why it's brilliant, because even though there's barrels and cardboards and cookie jars in Raindrop Chronicles as characters, they're not just going to be there, are they? They're going to be living, breathing beings. I am turning it on its head. I'm subverting expectations. Okay, how are you doing, True Blue? Though, welcome to the stream. I hope you had a fantastic day. All right, so that's very important. That's very important, those. And do they have any quirks? I don't think that was in our form. I don't think we had what is a quirk you got. I think that was something we missed. So that's something interesting that we can like think about with some of the characters, because it just helps distinguish them from each other. They're not all the same then. Like, have somebody that, I know, closes his eyes a lot or something. I don't know. Just something that makes him different from every other human, or her, or they. All right. And that could be like a culture thing as well. Like, for example, the reptiles. I know it got mentioned once that it could be part of their culture that with their wings as a greeting, they move them a bit to say hi. So sometimes it's not just the individual that has a quirk. Sometimes it's to do with culture. How would we word that? Not sure how to word it. That's the first thing I can think. Characters do be looking kind of quirky though. Oh yeah, they are. Alright. How talkative are they? Did we do that on the form? We had a section that asked about interactivity here. If we zoom in a bit, you'll see. It's all very surface level stuff though, this is. There's just literally a check box. Are they more reserved or more talkative? But we're going to go more into depth on that now. So... we might have to split these bullet points into categories because we might end up with a lot of different ones eventually. What are their most common words and phrases? Now, I'm a big fan of, if you guys have spent a lot of time with me, you might know, if you've spent a lot of time in these streams, you might know that I'm the sort of person that when it comes to characters and dialogue, I greatly am fond of different tones of voice. So that the characters feel very different. They don't all sound the same. Now, because this isn't a voice acted game, because it's just a text-based story game, that it's even more important to make them stand out from each other. Don't make every character say the same things the same way. Give them unique phrases unique to them and words that are unique to them, and they'll just stand out more. They'll set them apart. Cultural ritual, that could be one way of doing it. That works. And this is looking like that's 16 personalities. Oh yeah, they're Myers-Briggs. Now I should put that in. Let's put that first. So what is their personality type? And I'll actually say Myers-Briggs. Is it that? Is that how you spell it? Now, I'm a nerd for the Myers-Briggs personality type, right? I think it's a very good starting point with characters to kind of get that sort of personality type. Just if they're an INTJ or whatever, just say, because it's a good base, it's a good foundation, and you can get an idea of a character just from looking at that. I mean, it's not the be all end all, it's not like everything, because in real life, you know, people are more than just 16 different categories, right? There's more to them than just being one of 16. I know some people who are INFJs like me, but they're nothing like me. But it's a good starting point. And INTP gang, INFP gang. Oh, is that what you two are? And why did you choose to make it text-based? For many reasons. And high proxy, by the way. One, oh God, I could make an essay about answering that question. For a start, I'm a solo developer, right? This is a £0 budget project. Can't afford voice actors, and even if I got all my friends in the community to the voice acting, it's going to be really frigging unprofessional right? So, one reason why it's better text, but just easier. Second reason, it's nostalgic. And three, if we wanted to make it available in other countries like Japan or something, the game, it's a lot easier to do that. I mean, it's an expensive process to get all the dialogue translated from English to Japanese, but it's a hell of a lot easier to do that with text than it would be to frigging get it dubbed, you know. So you gotta just be sensible. I'm not Square Enix at the end of the day. I'm just me. I'm a solo developer, and text-based games are wonderful. Nothing wrong with voice-acted games either. Some of them are great too. And you could make different characters have their own font like they did in Undertale. Oh yeah, Undertale. See, that is a beautiful example. And sorry about the frozen stream. I think we're okay now, aren't we? We're back. Sometimes it freezes, but it's like literally just for a second. That is a beautiful example of an incredible text-based game with great characters. So that's great inspiration. Possibly that's something to consider. The term most writers use is giving a character a unique voice. Yeah, that's a good one. Try. Good way to put it. Yeah, 316 personalities uses a different system based off Myers-Briggs, but relies more on a modern research to improve upon it. Purists don't like that though. I almost forgot I wanted to show you someone's Flash series based on The Secret of Mana RPG. Sadly their site no longer exists and Flash is going the way of the dodo. I know, right? Well, if there is any games or anything at all you want to show me, we have a creative work channel, folks. Feel free to put something in there if you've got something creative to show off in our Discord. Don't be shy. Wait, can you even put RPG Maker games in? Of course you can. Of course you bloody can. There's loads on there. Since when has Steam been fussy in this day and age about what goes on there? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the engine is. If the game's quality, whatever it's made on, it deserves a place on Steam, in my opinion. What's your favourite Final Fantasy relationship and why is it Palom and Porom? I don't know who my favourite Final Fantasy ship is actually. I cannot think off the top of my head. There's definitely tons of relationships I like in that game, but there's not a ship in particular that's springing up in my mind. It wasn't actually, yeah, it was Game Maker, Tries right. Lisa was yes, that's a game I've got on my wish list as well, funnily enough. Try Lisa, it's meant to be amazing. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Didn't know I program my games on my own, but RPG Maker seems cool for making prototypes. Didn't know you could make whole games of Steam with it. It's an engine, the same as any other engine. Same as Game Maker, same as Unity, same as anything. Engine is an engine. Use whatever one works best for your project. To the Moon was 2 and it is great. To the Moon, yeah. That's I played that one, God, ages ago now. But yeah, it was definitely a very feelsy one. That game is very good. I loved it. Getting started making an RPG and got up because the Game Maker is too expensive right now. Oh, well, good luck, True Blood. That's not how that goes. If you ever want to show it off in our Discord, feel free to. Lisa is amazing, but not easy, like in terms of gameplay or emotion, though. I've looked at some short gameplay videos of Lisa, and there's something about it that just looks really entertaining. I know nothing about the game. I love the look of it and the way that the dialogue is. Celeste makes me cry. It's a good game, but God, it's difficult. Not made. No, Celeste is a platform game, isn't it? RPG Maker's not really the engine for platform games, but Celeste, I've heard great things about that one. But I'm absolutely dreadful at platform games, so I wouldn't even go there. But I've heard it's a very good one if you are into that genre of games. So what are their most common words and phrases? That's one. Just to give a unique voice to characters is a good thing to do. And another thing, I don't know if this is the best way to express it, but what is their manner of speech? Like, for example, some characters in dialogue might use a lot of exclamation marks if they're an excitable type. Some might use ellipses. Some might be super stoic and never use exclamation marks. Some might have a bit of a more a larger vocabulary, some might have the opposite. So things like, I think that's something to consider as well, to make them unique from each other. Another thing which is also really something I thought about the other day, what is their default emotion expression? Because in Raindrop Chronicles, let me just show you, give you an example, folks. I hope I've got the sprite sheet here, because it's so messy. I've got so many folders and I can't find anything. I have to go into the game folder. One sec, folks. Here we go. Here is my character Rose's sprite sheet. So this is what I mean, like, by what is their default emotion expression. Because Rose, this is like a default. So instead of saying default, I'm going to actually word it differently, because obviously default's just a normal face, right? What is their most common emotion expression? Maybe like what are they most likely and often to do? Or it could be more than one, to be honest. So I'm going to put S in brackets, because it could not always just be one. Like, so Rose, for example, she gets angry a lot. She's a bit feral. She also has been shocked, happy, but the angry face is there a lot. She's has a lot of expressions, Rose, because she's a mute. She doesn't speak. So for a character like Rose, we have to rely on expression even more to kind of show what she's feeling. She can't express it through dialogue. So that was an example there for what is their most common emotional expressions. It's a way to, again, set the characters apart from each other. Ideally, I don't want them to all just have a default face in every single scene, you know. If emotional stuff's happening, if stuff's happening that's making them laugh or cry or get really tense or stressed, and you're going to want, I really want to spend time getting those faces put on them, just to give a lot more life to them. And it's very easy. I mean, I've got, with the assets I'm using for the sprites, I've found a template of different expressions. So all I do is put the expression on top. I layer it on top of the sprite, and I just delete what's necessary. And it's not too hard a job to do, actually. Game Maker is £99, dollars for permanent license. I thought it was more than that, but it's probably what I'd want to use. Game Maker's great. Like, I've always said, if I wasn't making an RPG, I'd use Game Maker. If I was making a game of another genre, then I think Game Maker's a very good one. And I've heard good things about Godot as well. I have a decent income nowadays, but very little time, so any tool which would save me time are more valuable than the money, if that makes sense. But I would have felt the complete opposite 2 years ago, so I get it. And I wish Game Maker wasn't expensive for all the parts. Yeah. I struggled back years ago to register Game Maker when it was $20. I understand about not having the cash. Yeah, we're all starving creatives, you know. They should let us off lightly. I know the feels there, guys, because I'm the same. But I've always been one of these people that I'm happy living off less if it means I'm getting true joy out of what I do for a living. Rather than the opposite, which is get a ton of cash but absolutely hate your job. I would hate that life. So yeah, you gotta start somewhere. Right, so what else can we think? So default emotion expression. Now we can go even further than this. So it's not necessarily just the face, but body language, movement, gestures, poses, and mannerisms. Now we can't like go super ambitious because it's like we've only got like sprites here. But you can make a go of it, you know. You'd be surprised with what you can do with, you know, there's like I said, I've got a base thing of different poses and things, so that's something to consider too. And now, you know, like obviously if in terms of expressing your personality, appearance is usually the key one, you know. But something that's also worth considering is the home they live in. Because one thing that would be nice is when we do the mapping and the interiors of, for example, someone's home, to put a few little things lying around to give us a sort of idea about what that person does and what they're like. I think that's a nice little touch. I love those details in things. Because they're not blank slates. These people have been living lives. LOL, do I need to take the Myers-Briggs test as a Shara? Feel free to, guys. If you want to assign your characters a personality type, feel free to. I mean, you don't even have to do the test. You could all, if you know enough, you could always just say what they are, like what you feel they're most likely to be. Like for Rose, for example, now I'll say that she's an ISFP. So in-game Rose is different to real life Rose. Real life Rose, me, I'm an IFJ. But character Rose in game is an ISFP. So she's a little bit different to me. She's a bit tougher. She's a little bit more spontaneous and a little bit more of a, we're a bit different. She's not a hermit like me. So yeah, I'd say she's an ISFP, if I'm thinking off the top of my head what she'd be. Hey Rose, how have you been? It's Naz name change, and hey chat. Hi Nate, how you doing? Nate the sound ninja. That sounds badass. You're a sound ninja. How you doing? Good to see you. Will I need face expressions from a sprite like you have with Red? No, Ray, don't you worry about that thing, because I can do things like that. I have like a base template of like naked sprites, like with nothing but just the sort of outline of them and the face, and all I do is overlay. I literally just overlay that base over the character and rub it out. I did that with Rose, and it literally isn't too time consuming to do, and of course it takes time, but it's totally worth it just to add that extra life. But don't feel like you have to like commission it or anything to that degree, because it's simple enough for me to do. I mean, it's awesome that for anyone that does want to commission stuff, but don't feel like it's a necessary thing, because, you know, sometimes things aren't always set in stone. But and I haven't even commissioned anything myself for the game yet. It's still a zero budget project really at this point in time. I'm not totally against getting custom stuff done in the future, but it's difficult for me as someone who's zero budget, so it's kind of like that right now. But who knows what the future holds? Who knows? And I'm making facial expressions for my mate. Yeah, I mean, Van's an artist, so you know you're putting that time in to craft that yourself. But I'd feel bad if Radu was getting all these commissions done and spending a ton of money. But don't worry, anything that's simple enough, I'm happy to do, Radu. But don't feel you have to like get so much done, is all I'm saying, because it can be a lot. INFJ, like the teacher coach personality type. The INFJ, what are we called? What's our let me just get it up. This is the INFJ. The advocate. And what would Rose, I said that Rose was an ISFP, so what's she? She's the adventurer. So if anyone wants to have a look at the 16 personalities, feel free to. And if you've got a character in Raindrop Chronicles, Radu, Van, Try, or anybody else who's lurking here who's got a character, feel free to let me know which one you imagine your characters being. And I'll make a note of that, because I think it can help just to give us that little guide on that little starting point on your characters. And I've been getting ideas for the expressions I want to use, yeah. And if you want me to send over the template I've got, Van, you know, like I said, I've got this base set of sprites, just let me know and I'll send it over to you. If you want, you know, to have something to kind of help you out with that. I think a lot of SFJs mistype as INFJs, but that's a whole thing, yeah. See, I'm very, very much an N, and I'm not an S at all. I'm very in my own head, and I'm not observant in that slightest. I'm just so intuitive that it's not even a question that I'm an N. In fact, I'd say I'm rigidly an INFJ. I don't go into the others at all. Like, I'm completely introverted. I don't go into extrovert ever. And feeling, I'm 100%. That's for sure. And as for the J, I'm definitely that and not the P. So, but yeah, some people can be a little bit more towards another. They're not rigidly or too strongly one of the others. The character ISFP. Oh, you think so? See, I got it right. See, I was thinking, I didn't even do the quiz. I was like, what would Rose the character be? And I was like, yeah, she'd be an ISFP. So I was just thinking of how she would differ from me, and I know that she's definitely more like, because I'm an INFJ, that the thing she would differ with is the S and the P. She wouldn't be an N and a J, she'd be an S and a P. And that's the difference with me and the character Rose. But we have similarities in some ways. I might be getting off track though. Oh, you're an ISFP as well, Try. I think the only things I got left are the skin emotions. I'm getting swords. Maybe the character done right now, I'm going to have about 6 or 7, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, totally. If you want to do that, Ray, do totally, but don't feel pressured, especially not this early on. If you felt like you'd rather do it when your character's in the game and we're actually working on that stuff, then that's totally fine too, because you don't know how, you know, things might go or what we might need by then, or if anything changes or the like. And I have found a Sharu without even taking the test. That link was my resorter's Daniel. Let's have a look then. Yeah, what's a Sharu then, Van? Oh, you're an INTP. Yeah. That's interesting. I think that makes sense for your character. Try, from what I imagine. He strikes me as more of a T. That's for sure. A Sharu is an architect, INTJ. Oh yeah. I think so too, Van. I always think of the INTJs as the real, like, geniuses of the world. I do. And that would make you similar to Try's character. The only difference is that he's the P and you're the J. And which makes sense because, yeah, Try said earlier that you guys would be an interesting match. Interesting indeed. All right, so back to our list of character development questions. So I'm thinking if we spend the rest of the stream just coming up with some really cool character development questions, then the rest of the week we can actually look at our characters that are going to be in episode 1 specifically, and we will think about them more in depth. And we sort of did start that, but we're going to do it for more characters. And we might start making some NPCs ourselves as well that live in Lakefall. That'll be fun. I think it's probably would work best to make the Lakefall NPCs first and then do the reptile in the cave NPCs once we've done those. We'll have to make those guys as well. But it can be we can have it a bit rough at first. We don't have to like completely set them in stone. We might want to wait until we've got some more story element ideas, until we completely flesh them out. You're an INTJ too, Arthur? That makes sense with Daniel being more open-minded while Ashai's more rigid in his views, if I'm reading it right. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say that would make sense. I'd have to try the test. Yeah, what are you in real life, Van? A lot of analysts in this chat. Because everyone here is a genius in this stream, that's why. You all appreciate a good story and a good RPG, so clearly you are. Right, so more questions. Okay, so the questions we've had so far are about what makes them unique, I guess. What they like doing in the spare time. I'm not gonna think too much about the categories yet. I'm gonna split those up out even. I'm kind of moving on to mental health now. So, do they have high self-esteem or low self-esteem? I know that Asharu's got high self-esteem. Rose has got low self-esteem, unfortunately, because she's very insecure about her place in the world, and she realises that people fear her and see her as this monster and don't want to be around her, and it's definitely eroded her self-esteem. Poor Rose. But it's an interesting character arc because maybe she will grow. I don't even know myself where Rose's character arc's going to go yet, and where she will end up or what her character endings will be yet, because I like to still be flexible and open-minded about it, and it's fine if to have an idea too, but for Rose I like the idea of keeping it a bit open-ended at this point. I kind of want to see where the story goes, but at the same time it's not just my choice what happens to Rose, it's all of our decisions. I try to make as clear as possible that in regards to our characters, us as the community, and that includes me as the creator of course as well, I have the final say, we're in control of really where their fate and how they end up, because it's got to work with the story most of all. For example, if we like have this incredible plot, but somebody in the stream is like, no, you can't do that to my character. No. And I'm like, and we're like, but we have to because it's the best for the plot. It just works perfectly. Then that's the problem here. That's why I've had to put that there, so you guys understand that, you know, your characters potentially might have really interesting or surprising twists to their character arcs. Even Rose could have a really surprising twist, and it might be out of my hands if some of you guys have a sort of idea for where Rose could end up, and I'm like, well, actually that works perfectly, then I might have to go with it, even if it's tragic, even if she dies. Even if she dies. Yeah, high self-esteem, definitely. Yeah, from what I gather of Asharu, from what you've told me, he's like frigging, he's got an ego. He knows he's good. He knows he's good for sure. What I'm thinking, what's Asharu's flaws? Because he's definitely this very, very. I mean, I'm interested in the bad sides of him personality as well. But right, so this is another thing to think about too. This is a weird question, but it's something to consider. Now, there's obviously not just narcissism. There's lots of things, but that's something to consider as well. To consider how, if there ever is a character that's got a huge ego or something, maybe they're a narcissist. That could be an interesting thing to consider. We're getting towards the like mental health and the very flawed and nasty sides of our characters now. So be prepared, because characters aren't Mary Sue's, you know, we're all flawed. We have good in us, we have bad as well. So, I don't think being an XXFP is good for being a writer in general. Writers should always plan out their story instead of improvising. At least that's how I think. I think I can understand Arthur. I think it's very good to have a structure. I mean, that's why I'm kind of getting more like that. And I think as time's gone on while doing this project, I have definitely wanted to be more planning and organised than I was at the start. And to a certain degree, I want Raindrop Chronicles to remain improvised to a certain degree, so we can keep that community creativity aspect and idea sharing throughout the project. But at the same time, I still have to have some elements that are more structured so we don't end up in complete chaos. It's about getting that balance right. Opinionated, yes. And both have their advantages and disadvantages. Fly by the seat of their pants. Oh, really? I'm interested in those ones. When people use extrovert or introverted or any of the personality types, I tend to roll my eyes. Why is that, Zephyrus? Any reason? Could be I don't like the idea of rewriting, stopping a story that's 95% done. And I like to have an outline of the broad strokes, but let the characters carry me where it makes sense for them to go. Yeah, I think it's good to not be too rigid and stuck in, like, where you feel like, no, it has to be like this. Because sometimes changing something or like being flexible or seeing other methods of it can really benefit as well. And you could end up with something frigging awesome. So yeah, I think a bit of both's good. And he isn't going to have a high opinion of the hero. That will take work and time. Yeah, he's one of those guys that you just, if you impress him, Asharu, you know you've done well. You know, he's a first pot. But that only really works if you have a strong sense of who the characters are. Alright, so next question. Okay. I don't care what you say, everybody in the world is manipulative to a certain degree. Just in different ways. So if I make a list, then we can at least have some ideas in mind what they are. Think about what yours would be, chat, for your character. Because I did a bit of research online for this, and there's so many, you know, it's very wide and different. And I'm sure the list I've got is only just a small amount. Can't spell that word. If you're interested, oh, thank you for sharing that. Try. I think I can be both introverted and extroverted. Sometimes I don't have the energy to speak to people. I'm mostly introverted, though. I feel like a hermit. Yeah, I'm some people can be both, like, and some people misunderstand the whole extroverted and introverted thing. It's nothing to do with how confident you are or how easily you can talk to people. I can talk to people fine, but I'm a massive introvert because I get my energy from being alone, and that's how I recharge my batteries. Whereas some people are the opposite. They have to be around people to recharge their batteries. I can freaking be away from people forever. Like, if I was away from people for a year, I'd be fine. So that's how I know I'm an introvert. And in certain settings, I'm very much an extrovert, says Van. Is it possible for the custom hero to impress the lore master, though? Yeah, Van's the lore master, that's for sure. And maybe, yeah, that's a good question. Would your character Vandalia ever be impressed, or is it almost impossible at this stage in the game, at the start anyway? My brain is weird. I stab it with Q-tips. You are just gonna have to work harder to become the lore master someday. Maybe you will be, Raido. How the particular elements of a personality can interact can complicate things too. For example, I tend to introvert my thinking as very much internal, logical process, but my intuition is more effective when it's extroverted, directed out of the world to find connections. Interesting. All right, was there any more on that list? Okay, that's the only ones I can think of right now, but there might be more. Rose, if I was going to pick one that Rose was going to be, it's passive aggression, I'd say. Rose, the character, that is. Because in the game so far, like, whenever, like, Carol the Barrel's insulted her, she's like turned away and had this like angry face. But I don't know, maybe she's a little bit less subtle than that, because she's sometimes definitely shown her anger in front of people. So maybe she's physically intimidating. Maybe, considering she's feral, that could work too. Carol the Barrel is definitely yelling. She's the yeller. What is their major flaw? Do they, what is their fears? Now, the form had this question. It had, what is your biggest fear? And I had like a little list of examples there, but we can go even deeper into this. Seen as connections between seemingly unconnected systems and events, as well as social connections. It's useful for policy work. Maybe someday for sure. Yeah, I'm an introvert. I definitely prefer to interact with as few people as possible. I find that most people that come on Twitch are introverted, because people that are extroverted don't really bother going on Twitch because they go out and talk to people in RL, don't they? I had no time for that. As far as Ashari, there's very slim chance he'd be impressed by the Lore Master me. He'd probably say that I've not learnt enough to be a Lore Master, that there are no true Lore Master. No one has learnt everything about his particular subject ever. He'd never be impressed with me. Lol. I could definitely see Daniel's issue being more a total inability to manipulate people even in an acceptable way, or to put it another way, being honest even when it might hurt people. Yeah, and guys, feel free to just talk about your characters in chat if you know while we do this, because I make notes on this. Like I say, I'll be looking through the VOD and I'll be like making notes on things like this, so that, for example, when we get to the episode that your character's in and when we meet them, we'll have the notes already there then, and they'll be developed already. Well, sort of there. You might have a bit of an ego. My wife is a bit of extrovert. Yeah. Does she go out more? Being honest when it might hurt people. Yeah, what would that be? How would that be summed up as a, I suppose, blunt, no social tact, I guess? I mean, nobody's innocent, right? That's how I see it with this question. Like, some people are obviously more manipulative than others and are more evil, a bit more selfish than others, but everyone to some degree has done some of these things in their lives, or like been prone to doing one or two more than others. So I think assigning things like this to your characters just help, once again, just make them feel a bit more real and not Mr. Perfect or Mr. Nice. And it's just a lot. It helps, and it helps write them and write their dialogue when you know what they're more likely to do, and you can keep consistent with the character as well. For example, if we're like, okay, they're the one that gives silent treatment, then you can consistently carry on that theme, well, you know, that sort of way that character is throughout the game consistently, and they you know, that's what you want, consistent characters, right? Even though they grow and change, they're still the same human being. I have some very alien characters which are a particular challenge. Yeah? I'm very interested. I must admit, I find Carol the Barrel a challenge for me. She's an alien character, I suppose. Because she's very aggressive. She's very, just says what she feels. She's blunt. So she's fun to write, though. I must say, blunt characters are fun to write. but their approaches to morality are totally different to the world. Oh yeah, interesting. I'd love to hear an example. Maturity comes from learning when you have to be tactful. The thinking type, yeah. Efficiency and honesty on top of emotions. Even if Isharu appears rigid and opinionated, he's got a warm side to him. He's not impossible, but he believes that he is something more important to deal with than following a hero. Interesting. What would Asharu's method of manipulation be? I mean, this list here, it could be completely expanded. I've probably not even listed all the possibilities there are. Okay. Do they have any strong Okay, so I think that question is really important because especially the last part, because really that is the character arc, you know, what their beliefs are and the changes they go through, kind of, you know, the character realizes that it's the character arc, it's the change in them. You know, that's what makes an interesting character. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I guess, for example, Carol the Barrel's false belief, and I might be wrong, I'm just thinking of the first one, is that she, well, a very simple one, there might be more than just this, but very simple one is that she's got no time for human beings, I suppose. If human beings are scum, that could be a false belief. Human beings are stupid. Human beings are selfish. Human beings are this. Having like false beliefs of the human race and thinking of them a certain way. She as a barrel has those false beliefs. But, for example, her character arc could be a journey of realising that humans aren't all bad. That's just one example. So the character arc challenges that. So I think it's a pretty important question. I think Radu will run into problems at the sandwich factory. Sandwiches and onions cut up just to tear up, although he doesn't like the taste of onions, lol. Yes, the sandwich factory, that is going to be definitely... it's definitely around where Radu is, because we says if he's around the highlands and mountain area, which is likely where he is, if he met the man of the mountain or is meeting the man of the mountain, that would be where he is. And the sandwich factory is going to be in our swamps near our underground carnival theme park section. So that swamp is near there, so I can see that working. Now, leisure feel the same way about 5-6 years ago. Eventually learned it's easier just not to say some things to some people. I was 19, 20, then 26 now. You just offending me by calling me immature. We're all immature, you know. We all have growing to do to some degree, no matter how old we are. Silent and Lost, how are you doing? My character forgot her own name. It's amnesia, I say, or is it maybe it's just quick where she pretends to have amnesia to play tricks on the unsuspecting. How are you doing, Silent and Lost? You're here. There you are. There she is. One and only Neko in the game. How are you doing, Silent? How you been? Welcome back to our Raindrop Chronicles stream. It's been a while. It's been some time. It's good to have you here. Hi, Rosie McRoseface. Hi, Chub Cheeks. How are you doing? Good to see you. Happy Monday, Chub. How are you doing? Don't remember if it was lavender or something. It was lavender. Shay. Now, I'm going to get this up just because it's here anyway. Oh, I apologise about the massive zoom-in. But that one, Silent. we've put her here actually because recently we've been doing a rough world map of the world. That's kind of, we're all on story stuff at the moment. We're really getting episode 1 story super. Well, we're trying to flesh it out as much as possible before we really add it to the game. And she's at a farm. She's at a farm because it says on her profile that she's lives in a farm, a family farm. So that was really straightforward, which is awesome. So we also did a rough, because I know a few peeps are coming in, chub cheeks, etc. I did a rough plan of all the episodes and what zones might be in each episode. So let's get that up. We did this at the start stream. It's very rough at the moment, but we'll probably be going to the farmland in episode 2. That's kind of how we're seeing it right now. And those little squiggles and circles are like the episodes. There might be 6 episodes. Right now, that's kind of what we're thinking. Really good. I'm glad to see this project is still running strong. Can't wait for the demo. Thank you. Oh, this is interesting. Story stuff is the most fun. Yeah, so the demo, and I'm going to remind you guys again, so you all know, I'm getting more organised than ever with our project now, and I'm thinking of it in stages rather than just doing whatever I feel like, because I think it's going to work better. So something like story, I've called it stage 0 because it's literally the first thing, and it's also ongoing, and it's something that like we always will be doing. And the other stages are like more in-engine based game development stuff, especially from stage 3 on, well, stage 2 onwards, should I say. Dialogue's more, isn't necessarily in the engine. And we're currently here for the demo. We've done some of the battles, but it's very rough around the edges, and I'm kind of putting the battles and balance into the side right now so I can get everything else, like all this part, perfected first. And once the balancing is done, then the demo will be ready to come out, and then we'll be working on the next playable build, which will have probably an extra quest in it, maybe another side quest, maybe a side quest or 2 as well. All depends. Right, back to our other one. We're also thinking of questions of character development today as well. We're getting loads of ideas and questions down so we can really flesh them out, because this week, so Wednesday and Friday stream, we're going to actually be discussing the episode 1 characters. Any characters that make an appearance in episode 1, we will start thinking about, and these are the questions we might want to consider about them. I've hardly been here recently, which I can only apologise for. You can come and go as you please, Mr. Chub Cheeks. You can come and go as you please. And you'll see what cool stuff we've been doing when you come back, which I just showed you and what you saw. So you asked about the characters with alien mentalities. For example, I have a call to characters who believe in a twisted form of absolute karma. Therefore, any act that they commit is justified as it wasn't deserved. The universe would not allow them to commit it, but at the same time, anything that happens to them, they must also have done something to deserve, and they accept that too. Interesting. And again, that key word, beliefs. I think thinking about beliefs, which is why I said this question here is like super important, is so cool, and just really makes it more in depth and more complex and more layered and interesting. So I'd like to consider what each character's false belief is as well, because that's what's going to challenge them and make them change and grow as a character when they realise that this belief isn't really necessarily true. So that brings us on to the next question, which is, that sounds cool though, Try. Sounds super interesting. So, does their personality have room for change or ingrained? I'd like to say that every character has some sort of room for change. Because that's just how it is. We're not cardboard cutouts in this game, apart from Woody. But no, he isn't a cardboard cutout. He's the bestest box ever, with a ton of personality. They're wrong, but that's what they believe. Yeah, exactly, Try. So that's like a typical example of a false belief, right? They've got this belief, but they're wrong. Because most of the time, beliefs are wrong, right? That's what makes it fun, to have them be wrong and be challenged throughout their journey and realise things. And think, oh, hang on a minute, I was wrong. And that's where a character growth comes in. I'm perfect. Yeah, and those are the most boring of characters ever, because they're not likeable, and also they're predictable. And you just want something more real, don't you? Something that's more complicated and flawed. Personally, that's definitely my cup of tea. Wrong and proud. Hi, Horrible Hulk, how are you doing? I meant Kappa. Yeah, don't worry, I know you meant Kappa. Because, come on, guys, nobody here likes perfect. I mean, yes. So we admire strong characters who have, like, talents, and I think having a talented character or a skilled character or a very like interesting like character in that degree is fun, but they've got to be flawed too somewhere, otherwise they're just too perfect. I want to be perfect now. Just doing some work, looking for some background noise. Well, thank you for having me as your background noise. I love that cute little blankie emote. Character flaws make people interesting, for sure. That's why I'm kind of putting a major focus on that. Because all these questions, really, are what's going to make the characters not the best. The best, and not a cardboard cutout. And I'm doing this with even the minor characters, folks. To a certain degree. I mean, we don't necessarily have to spend, like, days talking about every single NPC, but it's nice to at least consider things like that for every character. I think that's it, maybe. Something else to consider is that what they are on the outside might be different to how they are inside too, and what they show people. Yeah, I mean, if anybody in chat has any really cool questions that I might have not put on this list, feel free to say. But I think we got some to go from there. Just note, a character may not view their flaw as a flaw. This is particularly apparent with characters which have non-standard thought processes or worldviews. Hi, Unstable, welcome back. That's a good point. That's a good point. Like, for example, Vandalia said that their character, Asharo, their flaw is being opinionated. But Asharo himself probably wouldn't think that is a flaw, because he probably thinks his opinions are fine, right? But he's perfect with his opinions. You know, he's an interesting one because he's definitely one of these more intimidating and more powerful characters, but I'm sure that he's got his false beliefs as well, that which I'm all very interested in, for sure. And I think that works alongside strong opinions, because whatever your opinions are, usually you start getting some false beliefs from them. Do they have any ulterior motives? Oh, okay, so we have the question, do they have motives, goals, desires, or temptations? I suppose ulterior motives could sort of go in with that one. Some people, I mean, it depends. Some people are open about their motives and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for my family, I'm trying to find my family. But others might actually, you know, be a bit, might be a bit more to it that they're not telling us, which kind of goes in with this question, do they behave differently around others to how they are inside? I think we could always expand on that, because that is kind of important, because how they behave and what they say to others might be completely different from what is actually going on in their mind, right? And I think now what Radu said there about motives is relates to that too. Exactly, just like arrogancy. Arrogancy is a flaw that's some type of proud sometimes, yeah. But other characters will see it as a massive flaw, you see. They'll be like, yeah, that guy is super arrogant, but they wouldn't see it themselves. I think the lack of flaws in Star Wars characters is the reason why most people didn't like the new Star Wars movies. Yeah, I never actually watched the new ones. So just let me know, were they met a bunch of Mary Sues? Were they like super powerful and didn't have anything wrong with them? Is that how they were? Because I'm not familiar with the newer characters, and to be honest, I heard that the film got very, like the latest one, got very heavily criticised, so it kind of put me off from ever getting into it, to be honest. Never mind, already got one. But it was interesting to consider, because you mentioned, like, you know, the motive might not be clear cut. You know, there could be thinking things inside in their head that they're not expressing to others. So it is interesting. I think I want to say, do they behave differently around others too? Yeah, that's a question I might want that could be expanded, because I think it's an interesting one. All that internal stuff that goes on in a character is important, not just what's on the outside. Well, also a nature type character might be fine having a fallen comrade's body where they fell, because it's natural order action, even though other comrades will be upset with that viewpoint. Yeah. And that and the canon was greatly changed. There are a lot of people who view other people telling them they're wrong as evidence that they're actually right, because haters. Yeah, people's personalities, like what's going to be cool, you know, is coming up with a bunch of NPC ideas, and they're going to just massively clash, some of them, and it's going to make for some great conversations. That's for sure, because that's our next job chat. When we return next stream on Wednesday, and on probably Friday as well. I think I'd really like to spend some time, now we've got this list of things to think about, actually really fleshing out the NPCs a bit, and it could spark some potential story ideas and potential character arcs and dialogue interactions as well. So looking at these guys, these are the community submitted ones that will be in episode 1, and we'll be making our own as well, because we want to populate Lake Fall and the cave of reptiles with lots of characters. So it's going to be fun to think together what sort of characters would really work well in this little section of the world. What kind of, I suppose, I don't like to say archetype, because it makes it sound really cardboard cut out and not like a person. So I don't really like to think of it as a character archetype, but I think as a starting point, thinking of an archetype, but really sort of fleshing it out and changing it and messing with that archetype by reading these questions here could be a cool thing to do. Like, for example, we've got Fiona Bookington, who's already an NPC's goal. She's the young, badass little girl archetype, I guess. And, you know, she's obviously going to have more to her than just be a badass little girl. And same for Nigel. His archetype is probably being a cowardly posh boy. So there's probably more to him as well. And the two main characters are Mary Sue's in the new Star Wars movies. Ooh, boo. No Mary Sue's. There won't be Mary Sue's in Raindrop Chronicles, guys. That's for sure. Even if your character, on first glance, in your profile or submit profile, seems like this perfect being, there's going to be way more to them, that's for sure. They're going to be flawed. We're going to make sure of it. No Mary Sue's. And do you want to construct character personalities first, then plot details, or do the constructions the other way around? Good question, Sab. We actually were talking about that a little bit earlier. I was saying that because we can do it whatever way we want, really. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever we feel like doing or whatever's going to work best for us. So at the moment, I feel like thinking of characters could spark some ideas for us, so it might be where we could start. But we could do it the other way around as well, where we think of some plots first and then the characters come from that. Because both could be just as good as each other. I mean, so far we've started with story, but I don't mind changing it around and doing characters. I don't mind switching between the two, actually. Sometimes switching could work. Like, for example, it worked with doing it this way, thinking of story ideas. For example, we as the community thought of the idea of a forbidden romance story with a human and reptile. That has already created two characters for us, just that story idea. So now we already know we're going to have a human and reptile couple and that we're going to have to flesh out together. So and also this one, reptile with no tail and wings, we as a community thought of idea, we discussed amputation, like what happens to reptiles if they've done something bad, do they lose their wings and tails? And we had this like really cool lore for that, which is here. So yeah, in the cave there's going to be a reptile with no tail and wings. That's a really cool character, right? Really, I'd like to make his asset, his sprite. He looks so sad. He'd be like this poor reptile with no tail and wings. Just from those little story ideas alone, we've got 3 characters created. But actually there's 4, because on the Forbidden Romance story we've got the sibling or parent of the human, so that's a 3rd character in that section to introduce. And you know what I mean? So sometimes thinking of the story first brings the character ideas, which can work better. So we could do that, but I'm also curious what could happen if we thought of characters first, and if that sparks any story ideas. What do you guys think is the most powerful way and most effective way of doing it? Because I'm curious what you guys think too. Because, you know, I might not necessarily have the best approach, I just go with whatever I feel like doing, you know, and seeing what works best. I experiment and say. And let's catch up with chat before we head off for the day. I want to see what you folks have been saying. Jungian archetypes are a decent starting place, although every character will exhibit different archetypes in varying amounts in different situations. Oh, I'll look at that. I think I agree. I think having archetypes as a starting point is good because you need something to go off, don't you? Otherwise, it's almost impossible to even have a character if you can't think of that starting point. But I definitely agree that you don't want them to just be nothing but an archetype. You want them to be fleshed out, and I think thinking about these questions helps flesh that base, that foundation of a character out. And I'm pretty happy with what we got. I love flaws. Without flaws, where would we walk? Episode 7 wasn't too terrible. Finn, the young black guy, he did actually lose the fight against Kylo Ren, but Rey was always perfect and awakened the force within her with no training. Episode 8 and 9 were just bad. Yeah, I've heard a few like negatives too, Zephyr, so it's kind of like, yeah, I probably won't watch it because of that. Don't think any of the characters in this game are perfect. I lost interest in the new Star Wars movies, yeah. I generally get bored where things are just action and explosions and fights and there's no character development. They're just cardboard cutouts that fight each other that are perfect. That's boring to me. I like a more realistic world where that's driven by conflict in a more internal way and tension and you know, rather than fights and explosions. Just more interesting. And I agree, Van. I don't think, like, looking at the community submitted characters so far, I think they're all very much able to be moulded into really great characters. Every single one of them, and I love them. They're all so different from each other. Never started the Star Wars franchise, just never had any interest in it myself. Yeah, there's so much to watch out there. Save yourself for the stuff that's the best. That's what I say. And it's pretty standard Evil Empire fantasy story with magic, just happens to be in space instead. See, for me, like, I much prefer the space TV show Battlestar Galactica than the 2004 one, because it's just more, that's my example of a show that's more about the characters and the morals and the sort of, it's just far more interesting than fights and typical action. So yes, give me character dramas any day over fighting. I'm 50-50. I love explosions and fight choreography in particular. Yeah, I don't get me wrong, I absolutely don't mind fights or action as long as that substance is there as well, entirely. Because as long as you care about the characters and people living in that world, then, you know, you want to see what's going to happen to them and stuff. But if you don't, then it's all just pointless. All right, folks, we've just touched 6 o'clock. This stream has gone by very fast, I have to say. It started very interesting, but never got to finish it. Yeah, it's probably my favourite TV show. I mean, it's not perfect, you know. It's not, nothing's perfect, but I enjoyed it. Right, so we're gonna go raid somebody. The new one. It's weird when I say new one, because the show itself is over 15 years old now, so it doesn't actually feel like it's new. But yes, the one that was made in the millennium, the 2000s, that one. Not the old one, not the old 70s one. I liked Babylon 5. Oh yeah, I think I've heard good things about that one. To be honest, I haven't exactly seen loads of shows, so there's probably some really good ones out there as well that I haven't watched. Terms of good shows, all series of Line of Duty are currently available on BBC iPlayer. When I saw that try, I thought you said Call of Duty, and I was like, no. Lol, I just saw the off-duty bit. Strong recommendation. I do, but I recognise it as the silly adventure it is. I didn't really watch sci-fi TV shows apart from Stargate. And it had good character development, politics, manipulation and story. Yeah, see, that's what I like. I like the politics. I like the whole, like, moral dilemmas and the social sort of conflicts and all that kind of thing. All the drama stuff that makes up good characters. The Expanse, if you haven't seen it already, same kind of story. I've heard of that one, Mary. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Anti-corruption unit, police investigating other police, rooting out corruption. Really well written, very complex though. Awesome. Yeah. You gotta love a good TV show that you can just get sucked into and marathon, I have to say. It can be hard for me to start doing it because it's such a time sink to do that. And it can be hard to just get around to just bothering to put on the first episode, but if you connect with it and it's something you like, then yeah, it's a lot of fun. 90s American version, but it's still some of the most wholesome and best actor performances I've seen so far. Oh really? Interesting. I just started reading Expanse books only about 2 chapters in. Being a UK show does mean it's relatively short though compared to the US shows. Yeah, some of them go on for ages, and that can be a bit daunting, you know, when they're super long. Alright, so folks, are we going to go pass the love on to someone? I think so. Thanks for hanging out though, guys. It's been fun being back to stream. That's for sure. I've had a fun stream. And we'll carry on with this on Wednesday and Friday. Whether we focus on characters or story first, I haven't decided yet, folks. I'll see what takes my fancy. Could be either one or the other. Either we do characters and come up with plots from the characters, or we do plot and we come up with characters from the plot. Because we're getting there with our plot, we've got like a big portion of our main quest line for episode 1 decided already, but there's still a lot of gaps to fill in, and there's also definitely gaps for side quests as well. There's definitely plenty of room for more story elements. And some NPCs will have, like, you know, story arcs themselves. They don't necessarily have to be side quests or part of the main quest. They're just them living their lives and that. Okay, who's on today for us to go over and raid? Have a look. Thanks for the stream. You're welcome, folks. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to put a trivia in chat while I look to see who we're raiding. Okay, guys, so it's a sudden one. Some of you might not be prepared for this. Lakefall, you got it, Van. First point of the month. Because we weren't, you know, we've only come back just after our week off. So, even though we're like halfway through October, it's really our first proper stream of the month. Yay! Well done, GG. Okay, so let me just refresh and see who's on, because it's just gone 6, so there might be someone who's come online for us. Mia was online, but did she? Where's she gone? Oh, there she is. Spoopy month. Spoopy month indeed. Who likes spoopy games here? I get scared of them personally. But we're going over to Mia's stream because it looks like she's doing spoopy stuff. She's on her starting scene screen. So she's not quite on yet, but we'll go and send ourselves over there. I wasn't ready, not me. Well, we'll just think, guys. Every time I end a stream, I'll likely put a trivia question up. So if we can get into that groove, then you'll get into it. You'll know when to expect the trivia then. So yeah, every time we're just about to end the stream. All right, so let's go right here. Okay, folks, I'll see you all on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to some more story stuff. It's going to be fun, guys. We're going to think of the best story stuff and the best characters ever together, okay? Take care, everybody. Have a good week, and I'll see you Wednesday.